The concept of the death sentence is both shocking and thought-provoking, as it raises a lot of questions regarding the value of human life and the pursuit of justice. Deliberately taking someone's life as punishment can be deeply unsettling, but in some cases it is well-deserved. Jesse Michael Gomez. Jesse Michael Gomez, a 58-year-old man, committed a grievous act by opening fire on 2 police officers in San Diego. One of the officers tragically succumbed to their injuries and lost their life. Jesse was held accountable and found guilty of the heinous crime. The severity of the offense was exacerbated by a special circumstance allegation, specifically the murder of a police officer. Consequently, he was sentenced to face the ultimate punishment, the gallows. The court deemed Jesse Michael Gomez responsible for the slaying of Officer Jonathan J.D. de Guzman, aged 43, in a shooting incident that occurred on July 28, 2016. After careful deliberation, the jury strongly recommended that Gomez face the gallows as a punishment for the slaying of de Guzman. Furthermore, they found him guilty of the attempted slaying of de Guzman's partner, Lled Irwin. Additionally, Gomez was convicted of being a felon possessing a firearm. De Guzman was a well-respected member of the San Diego Police Department. He had completed 16 years of service and passed away at the hospital. His partner, Lled Irwin, suffered a gunshot wound to the throat and remained hospitalized for nearly a month, fighting for his recovery. The severity of the situation was deeply disheartening. Gomez took the stand during the trial and testified in his own defense. He claimed that he did not know that the individuals who approached him on Acacia Grove Way that fateful night were law enforcement officers. From his perspective, he genuinely believed that they were members of a rival gang, and he felt that his life was in imminent danger. With this testimony, he tried to support his assertion that a perceived threat to his own life drove him to commit the crime. Gomez claimed that his vision was not fully adjusted to the surrounding lights, which influenced his decision to start shooting. During his sentencing hearing, his defense team argued that the penalty should be revoked, primarily due to Gomez being a victim of racism and bias. However, the judge of the San Diego Superior Court disagreed with this argument and upheld the jury's recommendation for the penalty. Furthermore, the judge rejected that Gomez was unaware he was firing on police officers. Gomez showed his regret to de Guzman's family by mentioning how sorry he felt. Despite his pleas and arguments, the jury gave the death sentence for his merciless killing. Taylor Parker. After deliberating for over an hour, a Texas jury delivered a verdict that sentenced a woman named Taylor Parker, aged 29, to the gallows. This severe sentence was imposed on Parker for slaying a pregnant woman she was acquainted with to take the victim's unborn daughter. The jury's swift decision reflected the gravity of the offense and the determination to ensure justice for the tragic loss of life. On October 3rd, a heinous act of capital slaying involved the tragic loss of 21-year-old Regan Simmons Hancock. During this incident in 2020, her unborn baby was forcefully removed from her womb, resulting in the baby's unfortunate demise. During the court proceedings, Jessica Brooks, the mother of Simmons Hancock, bravely addressed Taylor Parker, referring to her as an evil entity, a demonic presence. She expressed the profound pain and anguish caused by Parker's actions, emphasizing that at the time of the incident, Simmons Hancock's baby was still alive and fighting for its life. Brooks vividly described the heartbreaking moment when Parker tore open her daughter's stomach and forcefully took away the precious life growing inside. Upon hearing the emotional victim impact statements from the family, the judge made a decisive ruling. He instructed the bailiff to escort Taylor Parker to death row as her punishment. The lifeless body of Regan Simmons Hancock was discovered on October 9, 2020, at her residence in New Boston. This small city, located approximately 160 miles northeast of Dallas, has around 4,600 residents. Shockingly, Simmons Hancock's 3-year-old daughter was in the house when her mother was brutally murdered. A state trooper stopped Parker for speeding and erratic driving. She claimed that she had just given birth. Following the tragic incident, baby Braxton Sage Hancock was transported to a hospital in Oklahoma. However, heartbreaking news awaited as medical professionals pronounced the child lifeless. Prosecutors have revealed disturbing details surrounding the case. They allege that Parker went to great lengths to deceive her boyfriend, pretending to be pregnant. This involved fabricating ultrasounds and organizing a gender reveal party to maintain the illusion. During the trial, a state police investigator testified that Parker had conducted extensive research on convincingly faking a pregnancy. highlighting the deliberate nature of her actions. Taylor Parker even watched a video depicting the physical examination of a prematurely delivered infant at 35 weeks. Tyrell Webster. Tyrell Webster had been handed a severe sentence that could result in a lifetime behind bars. He appeared before a judge after being found guilty of his act of murder. In this case, the victim was Grover Cleveland Watson Jr., and the tragic incident occurred 1 year before Webster's sentencing. Unfortunately for Webster, his disrespectful and dismissive behavior in the courtroom greatly diminished any possibility of receiving leniency. Throughout his sentencing hearing, he lacked cooperation by evading straightforward questions about his educational background. Brazenly, he even questioned the relevance of such inquiries, audaciously asking the judge whether it truly mattered. Additionally, his audible expressions of frustration further eroded any potential sympathy that might have been extended to him. Following a 2-week trial, the jury presiding over Webster's case made a swift decision. They deliberated for only 1 hour before delivering a guilty verdict for the slaying of Grover Cleveland Watson. The unfortunate incident occurred in April 2012 at a residence on Osage Avenue when Watson was fatally shot during an argument with Webster. Tiffany Moss. A woman named Tiffany Moss, aged 36, has been sentenced to the gallows using lethal injection for the horrifying act of starving her stepdaughter to the point of death in an Atlanta suburb in 2013. Moss displayed no emotion during the trial as the Gwinnett County jury delivered the penalty. She was found guilty of all charges, including murder, cruelty to children, and attempting to hide the death of 10-year-old Imani Moss by burning her body in a trash can. What is particularly notable about this case is that Moss chose to represent herself during the trial and did not mount any defense. She made no opening statement or closing argument and did not call any witnesses to testify on her behalf. The penalty sentence handed to Tiffany Moss was very significant, as it was Georgia's first death penalty sentence in over 5 years. Throughout the trial, prosecutors portrayed a disturbing image of Moss, describing how she confined her young stepdaughter to a bedroom in their Lawrenceville area apartment. They revealed the horrifying truth that Moss systematically starved the child until her life ended. A medical examiner provided harrowing details of Imani's suffering during the trial. The young girl wasted away without proper nourishment or water, and she was forced to live in filth in her bed as her physical condition deteriorated to the point where she could no longer move. Authorities reported that Imani weighed a mere 32 pounds when she passed, highlighting the extreme neglect and cruelty she endured. Throughout this horrifying ordeal, Tiffany Moss neglected and starved her stepdaughter and fed and cared for her 2 children, who resided in the same household. Prosecutors emphasized the damning evidence found in text messages exchanged between Tiffany Moss and her husband, Iman Moss, during the period when Imani was being subjected to starvation. At least twice, Tiffany Moss sent her husband pictures of meals she had prepared for him and their shared children, highlighting the stark contrast in treatment. According to prosecutors, it is believed that Imani's death occurred after weeks of enduring starvation. Following the young girl's passing, Tiffany and Iman Moss callously disposed of her emaciated body by stuffing it in a trash can and setting it on fire. These actions reflect an unimaginable level of cruelty and disregard for human life. Iman Moss, the husband of Tiffany Moss, received a life sentence without the possibility of parole for his involvement in the crime. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to felony murder and made a deal to testify against his wife. As a result, he avoided the death penalty, but was sentenced to spend the rest of his life behind bars. During the sentencing phase, the jury members faced difficulty reaching a unanimous decision. They requested permission from Judge George Hutchinson to go home and rest before finalizing the sentencing verdict. After resuming deliberations, the jury, consisting of 6 men and 6 women, eventually reached a consensus and agreed upon the penalty sentence for Tiffany Moss.